Pat, I think it would be good for us to start off having you explain the pyramid of fandom to our listeners, so they can kind of understand that people don't just show up and become super fans. They have to be nurtured the same way you'd nurture a lead or a relationship.
Absolutely. So I say fans aren't created the moment people find you. They're created by the moments you create for them over time. And it's just like when you hear a great song for the first time, you're not immediately a fan of that band because you've likely never heard of them before, but you're getting interested, and then you go deeper, and all of a sudden you got the album, and then you get tickets to the concert, and then all of a sudden you're backstage with them, and then paying thousands of dollars to get behind the scenes passes and all this stuff. So this is like the progression. And it's funny because we can all create fans. It doesn't matter what kind of business we have. We can have fans just like the Backstreet Boys would, or Harry Potter does, and what have you. And it really is all about this pyramid, because in the pyramid, if you consider this pyramid, if you imagine one, that's your overall user base and how much they are a fan of you. And it always is largest at the bottom. And the bottom is what I like to call your casual audience members. Most of the people who find us, come across our stuff, are people who just casually found us, whether it's a link on another website, a Google search, or just random happenstance. But it's funny because that's where most people spend their time. They spend their time trying to grow that part. Let's get new traffic via SEO. Let's do social media so we can get more new people finding us. Like, let's grow more traffic, more. But I am encouraging people to convert those casual audience members into the next level, which is the active audience member. And that is somebody who is now subscribed, who knows who you are. They know you exist. When you come out with something new, they make a decision. Should I, dive into that or not? If not, no worries. I'll try something next time. And then our job is to move people from there further up the pyramid, less people percentage-wise, but higher engagement, and that's in our connected community. And this is where the magic happens in our brands, because this is where people not just are talking to you and you're talking to them, but they're talking and identifying with each other. This is where you start to see communities that actually have names for themselves, like, Lady Gaga's Little Monsters, and Beyonce's Beehive, and Justin Bieber's Beliebers, and the One Direction's Directioners, and all that kind of stuff. We can have similar things. So I have, for example, Team Flynn. John Lee Dumas has Fire Nation, and any community can have a name and have that feeling of belonging. That sense of belonging creates that, that's my place, that's my people. And of course, you are the leader of those people, and that gives you and your brand more authority. And then from there, you have the smallest chunk, but the most powerful chunk, which is the super fans at the top. And these are the people who, like our good friend Kevin Kelly says in his essay, 1,000 True Fans, these are the people who would travel 10 hours by car just to see you play a couple songs because you're a musician. Or if you are a product owner or a creator, they're going to stand in line waiting outside to buy that product before they even know what it is. They don't even care. They just love you so much.
You, in the book, articulate kind of those 4 steps as you just did, from going from a casual to an active to a connected to a super fan. Can people jump in line? Can you go from 0 to super fan, or is there a logical necessary progression? And are there kind of triggers or tells as you have your fans matriculate through that funnel?
Yeah, I mean, the book and the pyramid gives you a pathway, but people can definitely skip around and jump ahead. I also think what supports a little bit of acceleration with this is having your current fans invite people into the community. That way you can even have people skip level 1 and level 2 and already become a part of the community because they already have a connection with somebody. They were invited there by somebody else. And that adds a lot of velocity to that. Similar to how, like, if your dad invited you to a baseball game and you had no idea who this team was, the fact that your dad, who was a big fan and wearing all the gear and gave you a hat and all this stuff, like, you're immediately kind of by default a fan on day one because of just the connection that you have through a person you know already who's in that space. But yeah, it can happen. And the other part about this is once they're there, it's not like they're there forever. There's work required to have a person remain a fan. There's a consistency that's required. There is an expectation of people who have a general feeling. And if you were to go against what they have come to know you for, or do something that's a little bit out of what they've come to love you for, then, of course, they can come down the pyramid and not be a fan anymore. And you don't need to pay money to build super fans. And actually, that's the big misconception, is that this is going to take a lot of money to do. It does take time. It takes effort, but money, it does not. It takes care. It takes consideration. It takes just paying attention to the needs of your customers, your audience. The book is literally just a list of all the different things you could do, and you can pick and choose the ones that kind of make sense for you, which is really great. Some of my favorite things to do are to highlight members of your community. So one of the things that is great about a podcast, for example, is it gives you a platform to interview people. And a lot of people, I teach a lot of people how to podcast, and a lot of my podcasters go, oh, well, how do I get, you know, this giant A-lister on my show, like that big influencer? They're gonna give me a lot of clout. They're gonna bring a lot of new people. And I'm like, okay, well, that's great, but you know, you should interview your customers. You should interview your students, because guess what? They're going to relate more to your customers and students versus some big A-lister who's way out, you know, in the stratosphere already. And so what we could do as social media managers, as creators, as business owners, is to highlight the people as a representative of everybody else in that community. It does a couple things. Number one, it shows that you are recognizing the progress that certain people have been making in the community. Number two, it shows that you're in tune with them, that you care about them. Number three, that person is going to be the most amazing, most authentic testimonial that you could ever ask for by giving them a little bit of spotlight. And that's going to make everybody else feel like they're a part of something, and they're going to root for each other. And that's really what this is about, giving people something to root for, which is really key.
Given the panoply of different social media and content creation options available to our listeners today, if you said, hey, here's a channel you really ought to be thinking about to use to create Superfans, what would you tell them?
I would say go with the one where you know your community exists already, and just stick with that one. It could be very easy to go, you need to be here, you need to be there, you need to do all these things. I found that when I've taught people, just having them focus on that one channel and going all in on that doesn't mean you shouldn't spend any time on this other one, but for your superfan moments, for those experiences that you want to help people receive from you and your company, focus on one. I would say, for example, just, okay, let's for a month experiment by creating personalized videos on Instagram every Friday for a half hour with our brand new customers. And that's it. And it could be as simple as that, as a strategy to help you cultivate that kind of community. But video, I definitely feel, if it is easy for you and if you're comfortable doing it, and I would recommend trying it, would be the one that would give you the best feeling of there's a real person on the other end, you're hearing their voice. And just as far as like what people's expectations are, people aren't expecting super highly produced videos out of these things. They just want to know that somebody is paying a little bit of attention to them. And that's it. That's it. I mean, you think about like comment cards. Remember back in the day, and I think still some restaurants and places have these where, you know, if you have a complaint or something to say, it's like, okay, here's this card, you put it in the box and you never see or hear from that person again. It's just basically a way to shut that person up and make them feel like they were heard. And that's not what we're about anymore. And we're not even to the point where we should be there when a person needs us. We need to be there just like a waiter is there when I'm drinking my water and it's not even halfway full yet. They're already refilling it for me without me even asking. And using these opportunities and these tools for us to dig our well now before we're thirsty is what this is about. Because if you're digging your well and you're thirsty already, meaning you have an agenda in your reach out to people other than to say thanks and make them feel special, well, it's kind of too late.